And we're live in the studios. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have full studios set up. I'm super excited about it. My name is Ife Badage. If this is the first time that you're meeting me, I am the visionary behind all things Islandpreneur and hail from the beautiful island of Saint Martin. I have to do it that way because, I get excited about my beautiful island. We are here at Focus Forward in the capital, Phillipsburg, in the studios, doing this amazing Islandpreneur news broadcast being brought to you by our wonderful partners so that we can get to you some really important information. Now, we are less than a week out from Islandpreneur Power Fest. That's right, women supporting women, and it is going to be amazing. Now, let me tell you, I'm going to talk a little bit about the challenges of this whole Islandpreneur Power Fest. If I could just have your attention for 2 seconds, and then I'm going to introduce to you my incredible guest. We have had power outages. Mm-hmm. We have had telecommunications challenges. We have had a whole airline, a regional airline going bankrupt, and that meant that some of our attendees are not able to come to the Power Fest. And yet and still, all of that gives me the incredible signs that this is going to be the best one yet. We make 5, and the team has been committed and still is committed to ensuring that you are empowered and equipped to get global access. That is the theme for this year, global access granted. And so we have the U.S. Consulate General Curacao as our official partner. We've gotten a grant from the U.S. State Department. We have the Ministry of Finance as a partner. We have TELEM as a partner to make sure that this is happening. Yes, it's still limited number of women. It is not for a huge group because you really want to pour into them with our experts that combined have more than 100 years of experience, as they would say in French. And so we have Nick Mulkey from the city of Atlanta. We have Ali Merritt, who's the director of Atlanta Tech Village, the 4th largest tech hub in the United States. We have Dr. Dawn Sizemore from the Russell Innovation Center for Entrepreneurs, the largest incubator for Black businesses. And we have Allison Eman, the director, CEO of Venture Atlanta, one of the largest venture accelerator programs and companies in the Southeast. And they've done more than $7.45 billion in getting money into the hands of entrepreneurs. And that is still outside of having Leslie Samuel, our super international acclaimed online business coach that will be your host for those 3 days, and local talent, local entrepreneurs that are also going to be in the room sharing their knowledge. I'm super excited about this. We are uniting the US and the Caribbean in a way that has never been done before. I love that, right? I love a good never been done before. So that's happening this week. I'm going to come back at the end and give you more details about that, but that's happening this week, June 27th through to the 29th. We have incredible people doing that. Now, for the moment that you have been waiting for, I have next to me a dear friend, a business partner, someone that has walked with me literally from 2018 at least, or
Formally 2018.
Formally 2018, that's true. But before that, he has helped me to build out what you see today. The reason why you're only getting to see him now in person for many of you is because he doesn't live in St. Martin. He lives in the US. And so I have also journeyed with him as he's journeyed with me. He's moved all over the US, between DC, Colorado, Florida, and I think there was a West Virginia in there somewhere.
Virginia, yeah.
There was a Virginia in there. I knew there was a Virginia in there. And he is brilliant. He's young. He's grown up in St. Martin. He's a former youth parliamentarian.
Correct.
Okay. And he is now the vice president of programs at Watson Institute, where he builds out entrepreneurship and innovation development programs for Watson Institute and works with some of the biggest names in the business like Walmart and all of those to support entrepreneurs to go to the next level. So without any further ado, I need you all to show some love, give the hearts, give the likes, do all of that for our very own Dwayne Griffith. Dwayne Griffith, I'm so happy that you're here. Hold on. I think this is it. I think I got claps. If I don't have claps, we're going to create claps. Yay!
Perfect. Like, thank you so much, Ife. Viewers, listeners, it's just a thrill and a pleasure to be here. That introduction was so exciting. I'm like, oh, I don't even have to say anything because Ife covers it all. But like, it's been a long journey. I think the first picture we took with each other was somewhere in 2014.
Yeah, when you were a youth parliamentarian.
I was a youth parliamentarian. I was doing the National Development Plan, and we met up by Okama up there. And that's when we first really got intertwining with each other.
I think I hosted the first meeting or something like that.
Something along the lines of that. Yeah. So we got connected that way. But my journey has been a very long one. But I've just been thrilled to be by your side because the work you're doing here is really, really important to support women, to support entrepreneurs in general, and then island entrepreneurs. So excited to be here.
And if you don't notice, he has on an Islandpreneur shirt because it's that serious for us. There you go. We got some merch. So Dwayne, just let us know a little bit of who you are, a little history, and then we'll dive a little bit deeper into what you're doing now and where you see the future.
Yeah, most definitely. So a little bit about me. Of course, I went to Hillside Christian School. Then I went to MPC.
Okay.
And an interesting part of my journey, which I didn't really dive into I graduated TKL.
Yes.
And in my final year of HAVO, I was like, I don't want to go to the Netherlands. I want to go to the US. So in my final year of HAVO, I decided to quit.
Oh.
Yes.
I never knew that.
I quit and I decided to do the GED. To go to the US. So it was an interesting decision. Everyone was like, Dwayne, don't do it. But I was like, I want to do this. And during that period of time, I found a program at the United Nations University for Peace. And I applied for that. So I have a certificate in international security and development.
Okay.
And then I found the Watson Institute program where I was only going to go there for a semester to just study entrepreneurship and then come back and work here. And then Watson was like, we're launching a degree program so you can get your Bachelor's of Science in Social Entrepreneurship. So 4 years later, I got that. And then while in the US, I worked with different incubators like Halcyon Incubator. I worked with an accelerator called Quarter Zero Accelerator, where we help high school entrepreneurs launch and scale their businesses. And I did a couple of different things, whether it is corporate social responsibility consulting during my period. And now I found it full circle where I'm back at Watson Institute, program manager, associate director of programs, associate vice president of programs, and now the vice president of programs, where I lead the design and implementation of our programs. And for people to understand the scale, we lead 6 16-week fellowships a year for different corporate foundations like Western Union Foundations, Ford Philanthropy, Truist Foundation, Bank of Montreal, and many different programs. We run that and we support over 100, almost 200 entrepreneurs annually, which go on to impact thousands more in their projects in their local community. A part that I skip over, which we can spend some time talking about a little bit, is my time in St. Martin. And I think I joined the youth parliament. By a whim, a friend of mine, Muriel Jean-Michel, was like, hey, there's this thing called the youth parliament. You should, join. I joined. I did a speech. I got a position in the first year and worked my way up. And then I did the National Development Plan and really got involved in development. And that's where my passion began. But obviously I wanted to go global, as we're going to talk about here. And my journey took me to the US, to where I am today.
Awesome. You said so much right there. So let's go ahead and start with more of your experience here. And actually, let's look at your experience in the US. What do you see as some of the real things that are happening in the US that may be gaps in St. Martin right now from a programming perspective?
So from a programming perspective, when we think about entrepreneurs, like at Watson Institute, what we try to do is support entrepreneurs who are in the missing middle.
Yes.
And what that basically means is that entrepreneurs, there's a lot of early stage programs to support entrepreneurs, and there's a lot of later stage programs to support entrepreneurs. But entrepreneurs who's been around for like a year or two who are stuck, there's not that many opportunities for them. So for us, we are supporting in that frame. And it's been an incredible journey to figure out what are the gaps, what are they missing, because everyone in that middle stage is different. Yes. Everyone needs different things. So we're on that journey and finding out what type of programming and stuff we can put out. When I look at the Caribbean from a local level, I think in the earlier stages, especially on small island developing states, entrepreneurs tend to merge their businesses with themselves.
Yes.
So when it comes to finances, they don't pay themselves a salary. Yes. They take the money straight out of the business and pay their bills. And that is a challenge when you want to go global and break into other markets, because one of the things they ask you is like, what are your financial statements? Or another thing is like, your go-to-market strategy. So who are your customers, or who are the individuals you're working into? On small island developing states, because we're so small, you try to serve everyone. Right? But once you start to go global again, they're like, who's your target audience? What is the customer profile of the individuals you're trying to support? And one more thing I'll point out is traction. So oftentimes entrepreneurs on small islands find it hard to measure their traction, right? Because when things are bad and they need the funds and need up, hustle time.
Yep.
Hustle, gain a lot of traction. When you're up, you're good, you take it easy again. And it's like, how do we get that consistency across the board? Because when you start to go global, they ask you all these questions in these bigger programs.
I'm so happy that you talked about that, because to your point, in the early stages, you're seeing yourself as the business versus seeing yourself as a business owner that's building a business and then building the systems within the business. Now, I could hear some of my islandpreneurs go like, but in the States, you have all of this extra support, or you have a bigger market, or how? So if you can kind of adjust that to maybe some of what they can do practically to make sure that they are measuring traction, to make sure that they are separating themselves from the business. If you have one or two ideas, that would be helpful to our audience for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's starting simple. I think we often think about, you need an extravagant business plan and all these pages. You don't need none of that.
Yeah.
You can pull out a lean model canvas. You can start to like our business model canvas.
Can you say that one more time, because they don't believe me when I say it?
Yeah, a lean model canvas or a business model canvas. You don't need like a 16, 20-page business plan, right? And you can start mapping out the different elements. So when you look at those canvases, what you can really see is your customer segments, your financials, right? Like, the problem you're trying to solve.
Absolutely.
What is your solution? And
your value proposition.
Exactly. And it's like honing into those things and knowing how to communicate your business, because the struggle is, I just do this, or I make these things, or like they say it very casually, and casually works for us, right? But when you start to move up, casually don't work for everyone. So it's all about doing and documenting. And also it's going to help you when you quote unquote fail, because as an entrepreneur, entrepreneurs fail, right? So many businesses fail. That's totally fine. But once you start to separate your business and the progress and everything from yourself, then you don't feel like you as an individual are failing, right? Because so oftentimes, if the business is you, when you're not making money, when you're not doing things, you're like, oh my God, I'm so bad, I'm so horrible. Then you start to beat up on yourself.
Absolutely.
Right? And failure is often there, right? You'll learn a lot of lessons from it along the way. I've failed a lot on things I've done, and then I've moved on, right? But that separation helps you build more confidence. But also by tracking all these different things, you can point out what areas you're weaker in and what areas that works for you.
I love that. It's about doing and documenting. Very, very important. And to your point, we don't have to overcomplicate the process, right? Business, for those of you that don't know, a lean model canvas is usually for startups. A business model canvas is usually used for those that are already started. And that is a 9-component, 1-pager business plan. And if you can answer the questions that are related to that in 20 minutes or less, you know your business. If you don't, then you have to do more work, you have to do more homework to be able to understand the totality of your business and communicate that very effectively. And that often serves as the framework for filling in an actual business plan should you need one for funding and all of that. So I wanted to just kind of give a little bit of a lesson on the lean model canvas and the business model canvas, because we talk a lot of entrepreneurship stuff, but not everyone understands the industry or the language that it's associated with it. So we are in very interesting times. It is the easiest time on the planet to date to start a business, to go global with your business. In fact, there's now a concept of born global, so that you, before you would start a business, make it local, then you go ahead and expand into a multinational and all of that. But we are in a time where you can start your business today, and the fact that you started it online, it means that you are already global, right?
Yep.
And in St. Martin's case, if you could sell a product on the other side of the rock, you're already in international waters, right? So with that being said, how important is it to think global and operate on a global level?
Yeah, and it depends on the industry you're in, right? So of course there's always global components. And I was on a podcast a couple of weeks ago where we were discussing this whole thing, is that when you look at small island developing states, they're not a lot of resources locally to help these entrepreneurs. So what we've seen is many of the startups who've scaled, they've gone to the US, they've gone to Europe, they've gone through different accelerator incubator programs abroad, one, to get the funding they need, but to get the resources they need. So to answer your question, it is very important to go global, because as of now, there's a lot of organizations in the Caribbean, whether it's Tech Beach Retreat and all those different places that are doing the things. But from a general scale, majority of entrepreneurs would need to leave to gain that experience and that need.
And so I also want to add to that, because I think what we underestimate is, because we're small, our markets are also small.
Not the case.
And so having small markets and high cost of living, the math is not mathing, right? And so it's very important also to be able to scale your business beyond your local boundaries, so that you have the resources to enjoy life locally. It just, with electricity, food, cost of rent. I think I saw a document that says it's about $3,500 on average for people to live, and the minimum wage is still under $1,000. So how do you live on St. Martin if the average cost of living is $3,500? But you understand what I'm saying? The math is not mathing, according to the young people. So I think also it's important for us more so than in other places, because we need to be able to scale. You've seen all kinds of programs out there, and you are also connected to all kinds of investors. Do people really care about us in the islands, or is it just sun, sea, and beach for them? What's going on?
I think there's a lot of it depends on what side of the spectrum you are.
Yeah.
Right. If you're a heavy investor that just looks at return on investment, then there are always individuals making the case to say, well, the market is not big enough for the return that I want. Right. And especially with the crypto boom, a lot of investors actually lost a lot of money with in the whole crypto scene, and everyone has pivoted to AI.
Yes.
Right. From crypto to AI, you saw the shift really quickly. So you have those individuals who are thinking that way, and then you have the social impact investors who really want to invest in small islands. And I think something that I'm seeing right now is when it comes to even seaweed farming or climate change, all those different things, there is an opportunity there. I had a former classmate who started his own business, and he's into the seaweed farming business right now. And there are investors, there are people out there. So again, it depends on what you are. So when it comes to climate change, when it comes to tourism, right now, when it comes to exporting and e-commerce, it's kind of hard because of the routes and trying to figure out that component. But once that is figure out, I think they'll even see a bigger investment here.
And So hint, hint, for those of you that are into seaweed, there is something called seaweed farming that is a business, obviously. And I don't know where his friend is, but I know that we're in the Caribbean where we have a lot of seaweed. So just a hint, hint. And I'm happy that you talked also about the climate stuff. I was just in New York, and there's a lot of clean tech, climate tech, things of that nature. And I think there's an opportunity for the islands to be the test place for some of this technology, because some of the technology, they need to test it to make sure that it's working.
100%.
And they have raised money to test. They just don't have a location to properly test because the conditions aren't right.
Yeah.
And so I think those are some opportunities that we can look into. But for the average islandpreneur, and you're hearing, okay, well, of course we have some challenges with e-commerce, but for the women that are going to be there this week, that's June 27th through 29th, we're very happy to have amazing partners in Atlanta who really care about islands, who really care about us, who really care about how we're growing, and who also not only want to help, but they want to learn. They want to understand. They want to better know how we do things, because I think that's the other side of the coin that we always miss. We look outside always for information, but we don't necessarily become a contributor of what we also have learned along the way, right? So Dwayne, what does the future of the islands look like to you? Oh, I know it's a loaded question.
That's a deep one.
Yeah,
That's a deep one.
I
And
know.
I think the future of the islands is where we as the entrepreneurs, go ahead and make that opportunity. For me, we've talked about this and our long-term, vision, and it's very in line in wanting to establish a fund to support entrepreneurs on small island developing states. So I think, the future is bright. And I think, obviously, weather conditions, all those different things, play a role in it. But it's up to us to invest in ourselves and really connect to the global markets, do the networking that is needed so we can establish ourselves to supporting our own companies.
And I wanted to touch back on AI, because AI is taking over the world, has already taken over the world. I think in something like less than 13 months, it became the number one technology. And a lot of concern for some of the islands is AI may replace jobs, but I think also AI is a job creator. And so I would love to get your input on how AI can support island development, how AI can support entrepreneurship development. What do you see in that space between AI and islands?
Yeah. So another loaded question, but I'll start off by saying AI is not going to replace jobs. It's going to replace the people who don't want to learn how to use AI.
Come on. Say that again for the people in the back.
So it's not only going to replace job, but it's going to replace the people who don't want to learn how to use AI. And I think we as individuals have a responsibility to learn these technologies and then adapt it to our local conditions. So whatever business you're doing, using artificial intelligence can either help you with efficiency, help you turn out things faster, help you generate ideas. It's gonna save you a lot of time and brain work. There's beautiful AI for slides. There's there's so many different things
for video, for cartoons, for pictures, for Excel sheets. I mean, for coding. There's so much out there.
But also it's looking at your business, it's an individual case, right? So it's okay, what field that I'm in, and the question you should ask yourself is, how can artificial intelligence help me take this to the next level, right? Do I streamline a process? Do I innovate and create a new line of product using it? There's so many different components there.
I love it. I think also, let's go back a little bit to the programming. You talked about that you have 16-week programs available that are corporate supported, and that you support about 200 entrepreneurs a year.
Yeah.
And so let's look at the programming a little bit. What does that program look like? What kinds of components are in that program? Is it business agnostic? Like, how does that work? And then how do people, is it possible for people locally to participate in those kinds of programs?
Yeah, definitely. So each of our programs have an application process. And like, with Watson Institute, because it's like, the corporate funders, so it's their program. So we never say it's a Watson Institute, like, program. We say it's a Western Union Foundation fellowship. We say it's a Truist Foundation fellowship. And each, like, corporate partner has their parameters.
Yeah.
So for example, for the Western Union Foundation, their goal is to work with refugees, migrants, and people who are forcibly displaced.
Okay.
Right? So they gave us the parameters, and we search for the fellows who fit in that, who are forcibly displaced, refugees, migrants, all of that. And then we bring them into our 16-week program where we help them develop their initiatives, right? Within that program, there's so many different, like, components, but when it comes to the blocks, we start off with a strong foundation, right? We start off with an immersive week that's about 20 to 25 hours of programming where we just really get them to know each other. Community is very important. Meeting people from across the world helps you understand that you are not a learner in this journey. And that community aspect has a big impact on your mental, right? And then we go into data, how to use data and metrics, right? We go into product market fit. We go into funding. We go into pitch. We go into team management. Like, there's so many different components. And what's unique about our programs is, like, weekly we have our program managers recruit external speakers. So based on the profile of the individuals in the program, we get to customize our programming to ensure the entrepreneurs get the support that they need. So that's like, Western Union as an example. Truist follows a similar format, but for the Truist Foundation, what they wanted was people in Atlanta and the greater Georgia area. So that program is for people who are only based in Georgia, right? So, and then we have our flagship program, which is a global program, right? Where people from Caribbean nations can apply to be part of that program. And majority of the program is online. Sometimes there's a day immersive in person. Sometimes there's a 5-day in person, but it depends on which of the programs. But that way you can still be in your country, it's virtual, and you participate in the live sessions consistently to really, 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 really get the impact out of the sessions.
And so you are the Chief Impact Officer for for Islandpreneur and things that we do. We lean heavily on your expertise on how do we measure impact? What is impact? How can we document that more efficiently and effectively? What is the connection? Because for some years now, when people hear entrepreneurship, they only hear business. They don't hear the social impact that it has. So can you bring that full circle? How do entrepreneurs have social impact, and what does that look like?
Well, if we look back, like, years ago, when we talk about these major companies and entrepreneurship, it's like, hey, we're going to get our money first, and then we're going to think about impact after, right? So it's always about profit over impact, right? But in the 2010s or even in early 2000s, we started to see, like, a wave, a shift. And the shift is there is no profit first and impact after. It's built into your business model. Right? Every company, especially, we have a responsibility to our planet. I call myself a global citizen, right? Travel all over, different cultures, different backgrounds. But as a global citizen, we have a responsibility to people and the planet, right? And that responsibility is to make sure that we can impact. So even in your business processes, you may not have like a quote unquote like climate change or like a social impact theme company, but what can you do with your process, right? Like, to create impact. Can you pay people fairly? Can you use sustainable processes in your packaging, in your materials, right? What are the things you're doing to bake that impact in your business? So it's not separated, it's all together right now.
Awesome. So you're here also for Islandpreneur Power Fest. Finally, work schedules are always never aligned, but finally. And as we celebrate our 5th year, because you helped to co-host our virtual one when we started out in 2020.
Correct.
We got Jeff Hoffman, the co-founder of Priceline.com, because of your relationship with him and so many others. And so what are you looking forward to for Islandpreneur Power Fest and Islandpreneur Beyond? Like, how do you see Islandpreneur on a big scale, but let's start with next week.
Yeah, I think next week is just gonna be an excited week, especially to support women entrepreneurs. So women are the backbone of society, business, and for them coming in that room and having people from different islands to discuss is going to be really important, because how they do things in Curacao, how they do things in St. Martin, how they do things in Atlanta are all different, right? And having that opportunity to sit down in a room, one, to learn from the experts you've brought in,
Yeah.
right? But also to network with one another. That is what I'm excited to see. I am excited to see the magic happen in that room, because it's going to be very, very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one component of your answer. And then, beyond the future of Islandpreneur, I think it's just for us, we've tested a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the past couple of years have been about testing,
Yeah.
whether it is running events, doing other things. And I think for us, it's just shifting that focus on, okay, now we've tested so much. Let's sit down, let's debrief, let's map out our learnings, and let's think about what is the revenue generating forward that can have the maximizing impact. I don't want to give too much away now, so I'm not going to talk about it.
No, not
but
too much.
I think we're going to just sit down, debrief, and really touch on, these are the biggest lessons. These are all the entrepreneurs we've worked with, because there's been many programs. I remember our first Islandpreneur, 625 registrants from 35 different countries, right? It's come a long way. So there's so many learnings, so many opportunities. And I think it's just for us to sit down and then propose a strategy, public launch later down the line.
For sure, the whole theme of global access being granted for these women is also being extended to Islandpreneur. And that's all I'm gonna, that's as much of the hint that I'm gonna give out for right now. Dwayne, any last words before we kind of wrap this up and I can share more about Islandpreneur PowerFest? Anything you'd like to tell the people? Anything you would like to tell anyone?
Yeah, I always say this quote, right? Anyone is a change maker.
Mm-hmm.
Age, experience, or your position in society, that's not really important. A change maker is someone who takes the resources available to them and influence change in the life of others. And it's up to you, viewers, listeners, think about the impact you want to create in the world. Sometimes you may think you're not ready, but trust me, there's so many people out there in higher positions than me in the world that don't even know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Right? They're figuring it out along the way. And that is what life is about. It's all about you taking that leap of faith, you figuring out what you want to do, the impact you want to create. And if it feels right to you, then do it. Go for it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Dwayne. I want to share with you all a little bit about the next steps moving forward. So you should be seeing this on your screen right now. And let me adjust this a bit. So if you don't know where to go, ipfest.co/2024. We did have a situation with Jet Air, and so we will be streaming for our audience that has already committed to coming but couldn't be here, which gives two opportunities. One, if you are not physically here, you can still apply and be able to stream. But if you can be here, and I'm talking to those of you in Anguilla, in St. Kitts, in Saba, in Statia, in St. Barth, on the front side, if you want to, if you can still make it from Curacao, Atlanta, and Aruba, you're welcome. We still have a few slots left. So go to ipfest.co/2024. As you can see, the countdown is out. It's 3 days. Oh my goodness. I can't believe it's 3 days already. It used to be 30. And the question is, are you ready? As you can see, apply now is at the top. It's all over this site. You can go to and click on the video. It'll tell you more, but you will also get to meet our host, Leslie Samuel, some of our amazing speakers from the US. We have Allison Eamon from Venture Atlanta, Dr. Dawn Sizemore from Rice. We have Ali Merritt from Atlanta Tech Village. We have Nalita Catalina, who unfortunately can't be here physically because of the situation, but we will be streaming her in. So she will be beamed in through the internet so that she can connect with you. Of course, you have me, Dr. Ife Badijo, and so many more that are going to be present. all of our amazing women entrepreneurs are fantastic. You'd be surprised to be who's in the room. We have Simpson Bay Beach Resort as our host hotel. They have special rates available for you. So if you want to take a little bit of a break and weekend and learn and just kind of do a deep dive, you can do that as well. The next step for you is to go to ipfest.co/2024 and apply. We will be making the final cuts for this by Monday, latest Tuesday morning, because we do have to give final numbers. But whenever there's a huge challenge, there are huge opportunities. And so this is a huge opportunity that has opened up for you. I am super excited about it. I'm going to be seeing you all very soon. You're going to hear a lot from us in the days to come. The team is ready. We dotting I's, crossing T's. We're making it happen. Thank you so much, Dwayne, for being here with me in the studio, finally on the rock and not just, I mean, I love virtual, right? Y'all know how much I love a good digital something, but nothing beats in person. It just doesn't beat it. So I'm so happy that you're here in person. Thank you so much for all of the support and moving us forward and connecting us with a whole bunch of people. We are forever indebted to you. Thank you to Alvin and John, who are in the studios and making sure that this is done at the level that it's supposed to be done. Oh, you see that my production team, right? It's in the average. So just letting you all know. So shout out to Focus Forward. You know what to do if you want to build out your podcast or your media strategy. We have them as partners. And big shout out also to Be Your Own Brand, Julia Grigg, Marisha Olivachi from Hospitality. There's so many people at the back end. But more importantly, I'm going to see you this week. This week is Islandpreneur. We're celebrating 5 years, guys. See you soon. My name is Ife Badejo, Dr. Ife Badejo, as I'm often reminded to say. But Ife is fine. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Take care.